to this week's episode of the Melanin Muses podcast,
where we talk about how our emotions and personal views can affect our artistic creative juices with our special guest muse, Tanya Dailey.
Tanya is a self-taught misfit artist whose paintings invite viewers to interpret what they see in their own way, much like finding shapes in the clouds on a warm spring day.
Tanya is a longtime nurse and a full-time wife and mother who is passionate about art, people, and life, and is determined to share that with the world.
With that said, let's get started. Tanya!
What's up, girl?
Hi, hello. So happy to be here. Thank you for having me. I appreciate the opportunity to speak with you and talk about art and all things related. So thank you.
Of course. Now, I know we just introduced you. We gave you like a snippet, a little taste of what you're about, but please share with our viewers more of like your personal story. Tell us about you, darling,
Yes.
and the fabulousness that we see here. So y'all, by the way, go to our YouTube channel and check out this woman. She's absolutely gorgeous and fabulous. So just saying. But anyway, yes. Tell us about you, darling.
Tell us your journey.
Thank you. Well, thank you. Yes, I am a self-made artist, self-taught. I never had the privilege or the detriment of going to art school, depending on how you look at it. I don't like people to tell me what to do. So I didn't think that was the greatest path for me, right? So I went to nursing school and I've been a nurse for 27 years, been married 28 years, have kids in the 24-year-old range. So, been around a while and dabbled in little bits of art, different things, playing with different mediums from a young age, but I never allowed myself to really take it for real, to really put time and effort into it in a way that was personal to me until I moved to Florida and decided to take up painting. Became an empty nester. My kids moved out, my husband and I and our dog, and I took up painting because I was obsessed with Bob Ross and I wanted to try that. And I found very quickly that trying to paint things that look like things, it doesn't work that well for me. It's kind of like people telling me what to do, and it was very hard for me to continue forward in that way. I do it sometimes, but that's not the way I like to paint. I like to paint in a way that is free and allows my emotions to play out on the canvas and allows other people to interpret what I do from their perspective. So I try to not name my paintings. I try not to tell people what to see in them. I really very often just play and then allow the shapes and forms to guide where I'm going, and then I just let people see what they see. And it's always fascinating to me, which is my favorite part. It's fascinating to me what other people see.
It's actually interesting that you bring up the viewer's interpretation, because I went to a show, I think last summer. It's called Attack Theater, and it was like different art pieces that were all on the wall. And the host would ask the crowd, like, what do you see? What does this remind you of? And then they would write it down. And then these dancers would come out. And then they would interpret the dance of what that was called, or what you said the painting looked like, or what the art piece looked like. And now I'm pretty skeptical. So I was like, I don't know if I'm going to like this. But actually, at the end of it, I'm like, yeah. No, yes, please. Yes, this is awesome. So, no, I actually do very much enjoy art like this at all too, because again, art is in the eyes of the beholder, it can be whatever it wants to be and stuff. You can make it whatever you want it to be. So I love that. Would you say that Bob Ross was your first introduction to art?
In painting form? Yes. I have dabbled in all kinds of things. So I was a quilter for a while. So there were some famous quilters that are only famous in quilting circles that I had followed and interpreted. And one of the people that I followed in the quilting world, one of her famous sayings was "close enough is good enough." And for me, that was one of the things that I carried forward, right? Because quilting, and sewing in general, it's very precise. And when you don't like rules and you don't like to conform and do the same thing all the time, that can be difficult. So if you can find those little rules, those little sayings, those little bits of freedom, that other people give you, it just kind of opened a world for me. I didn't have to be perfect at it. I just had to be close enough. So that was probably my earliest, what I would call art, because it really did open up a lot of art. And then Bob Ross became, yeah, a little bit of an obsession. I love Bob and I love all of his philosophies. I have his little day calendar on my desk and just enjoy everything that Bob Ross was about, until I tried to copy his stuff, which I have. I have done a couple of Bob Ross paintings, and they, he is a master. He is an
It's
absolute master.
it's really challenging, isn't it?
It
I
is.
too have also grabbed my canvas and paints, not the paints that he has. He's like,
Right.
this is emerald forest green. And I'm like, I only have grass green. What?
Right.
Okay.
I
And I'm
only
Van
trying to
Dyke
have grass
Brown.
green.
trying to draw the mountains and stuff. And I'm like, his mountains are so much better than I. But like you said, his philosophy, I actually do very much respect his philosophy, where there are no mistakes, only happy accidents.
Exactly.
You did like an extra brushstroke there. You drew something that probably shouldn't be over there. No, not probably. It should be over there. Now do something with it. Figure it out. And I
Yes.
think even though he's telling you, teaching you how to paint, he's also trying to like let you know that, hey, you can do whatever you want. Actually, you can put your mountain over there if you want. You don't have to follow me. You can do exactly how you want. And I think people get that mixed up with, I have to paint it exactly the way that he's doing it. Otherwise, it's not good. And
Yes.
that's not what this is about at all. That's not what art is about at all.
Do you think that's
Exactly.
a constant thing that people learn in art school? Because I remember I took some classes for art. That's what I took in college for studio art and design, and it was like, oh, that doesn't look like that, or you have to be precise, or this determining, oh, well, that's not real art. I got that so many times from teachers, because I'm also an artist, for those who do not know, but my art style is more so comics and webtoons and illustrations. But when I was in college, my teacher would tell me anime is not real art, illustration is not real art.
How dare they? That just made me so mad.
Right. And
Right.
having seen your art, oh no, 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 that is so
like
not even close to the
like
truth.
for real. I wish that art teacher could actually draw half the things this woman has drawn.
Exactly. Exactly.
But do
See,
you think that's a common thing though? That like teachers are teaching, like, do you think that's hindering a lot of new artists and like younger artists nowadays, is the feeling of needing to be perfect in the first shot? Because I know that was something that I had trouble with. And to hear you say, like, as long as I'm close enough, that's good, that's enough. Do you feel like that gives you much more freedom to create the pieces you would love to do, in comparison to oh, I have to draw that, was it the glass jar exactly as that glass jar?
for me, that opened up everything. Yes, and I have run into a lot of people who tell me they're not creative, they're not artistic, and it's because they want to create what someone else has created, and they can't. And very often you can, eventually, but I mean, their work goes into that, but they want to be just perfect right off, and they want to mimic those paintings, be Bob Ross, and when that doesn't happen, it's easy to get discouraged. It's easy to consider yourself not creative, not artistic. And I think for me, letting go of that was the key. And I actually went on a couple of retreats, and the first one was the major one that really opened my eyes, because the first painting I did was blindfolded. So yes, blindfold painting literally opened my eyes to what painting can be, because you just start from this place of nothing, and you create. And I kept trying to create something, and it just didn't work. And it wasn't until I really let go, allowed the music and the emotions to really move through me, and kept the blindfold on, and it was that became magic. That painting, when I allowed myself, right, when I allowed myself the permission to not care what it looked like, to just just feel, and allow my hands, I literally finger painted onto the canvas. And that was the painting that at the end of the retreat got the reaction. That was the painting that moved people, that moved me when I saw it. And we don't allow ourselves that permission to just feel and put it on a canvas, put it in clay. Who cares what it looks like? If it doesn't turn out, paint over it, burn it. Who cares? It's the emoting, it's the putting those things onto the canvas that's the important part. And everything else kind of flows from there. You can take that, you can turn it over, look at it a different way. You can do like I do and look like it's a cloud. And what is that? Oh, I see a bird. And all of a sudden, you take away everything that's not the bird, and you have a bird that magically comes out of the canvas. And the first time that I did that, it truly was a bird. It kind of looks like a toucan, and there's this person in the background. I did not paint those things. I painted my emotions, and those things came out to me. I don't know. It's very hard to explain but it is very much like just laying on the grass and looking up at the clouds, or those ink blot tests. Because for example, and I don't have it behind me, but I have one painting that when I did it, I thought it looked like a bursting flower, like it has this gorgeous petals and it's just this beautiful thing. When my husband saw it, being a veteran, he actually saw a wound. He saw an explosion of some tragedy happening. And so it's things like that that really open your eyes to perspective and how much it can change what you're creating, which is why I don't like to name my paintings, because then it guides what you're thinking and it can take you away from your own emotions, and you're then feeling mine. And I really don't want that. Yes, I want you to see my emotions, but I want you to feel your own emotions when you see my paintings,
You want your
and go from
paintings
there.
to be very selfless.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes, I do. That I never thought about it that way.
Yeah. No, because giving it a name and saying it's this, that is in itself some type of selfishness. Now, granted, that's not
Mm,
necessarily a bad thing, and I don't want it to come off as a bad thing.
right.
But for what you want yours to be, you want yours to be free. Literally embody the idea of freedom, and I
Oh,
like that because I'm
I
not gonna lie, I've been looking at your paintings in the background, and I'm like, what is that?
mm.
It's the first thing that came to mind, and I was like, oh God, life. Nice.
Thank you. Thank you. I love the way you put that.
Like that's like I really love that you said that as well. I had called you Star. Oh Christ.
That's I still accept it. I still accept it.
You still accept it. Okay. So like I love that you more specifically touched upon the emotions aspect of it, because that's a dominant topic that we wanted to dive into. And I love that you said once you gave your permission to let go, that's what enabled you to actually fully immerse yourself within your art. So would you be able to tell us more about which emotions affect your art the most, and how like you navigate around that, like which prevents you from actually expressing yourself, what allows you to express yourself more, or what type of paintings you see a correlation between one particular emotion and the paintings that you create? Would you be able to go into more of that for us?
Yeah, absolutely. That was a lot though. So we'll try to kind of pick apart what you were
Sorry,
getting
yeah,
at. So yeah.
just
You're like,
so
whoa.
how the
Yeah.
correlations between your art and your
Yeah.
emotions and how that
Yes.
affects you to
Yes,
break down.
absolutely. Um, so I think, a lot of people know his art through history. People have painted from a place of pain. Van Gogh was one that painted from pain and did beautiful things. I have a lot more trouble painting from a place of pain. When I am depressed, it's not something that comes easily to me. So in that, I think like a lot of people, I really struggle. But in those cases, I'm going to pick up something and show you. When I'm struggling and I can't handle a big canvas, it's just too much for me to even think about. I play a lot more. There we go. And I just do things like paint pens and paper. This is just a canvas board. And again, it's just playing with colors, designs, and textures, and just trying to see what I can come up with. But for me, this is completely like non-committal. There's nothing. This took me a couple of weeks actually of just picking it up when I had the energy to play. So
Love
this
that.
thank you. But it's just this, and me is just the playing. This is the permission. I'm just keep flipping it because you're turning your head. But this is what I always do, in that I just give my self permission to play. But this was just different in that I don't care what it looks like. It's not meant to be or turn out to be anything. It'll probably lay on a shelf somewhere until my kids find it when I'm gone. And that's okay, because the more you give yourself permission to do those things, the easier things become. So when I am really, really not in a good place, and you know, we all get there. So when I'm not in a good place, um, it's limiting, right? You want to create something beautiful, but you feel like you can't create anything beautiful because you're not feeling beautiful, and it all just ties in. So in that time, I actually set myself up something that I plan to burn. That's my goal. That in my head, this is going on the burn pile. I am absolutely, this is garbage, but it's a blank canvas for me to play on. So I'm going to throw all my emotions on it, and then I'm going to get rid of it. And that allows you to get rid of the emotions you don't want in a very spiritual way also, because you know, if I really really don't want those things, I'm going to symbolize them on the canvas, and I'm going to burn them and, you know, feel better. But it really just opens you up to give yourself permission to, can I curse? Is it okay? I don't know if you guys curse on here. So, okay. So it gives yourself permission to fuck it up, because so often we're tied to, this has got to look like this, right? But if you could just say, I'm going to fuck this up on purpose, because the more you fuck things up on purpose, the more you find your limits or the lack of limits, right? You're pushing those boundaries, because if you're trying to make it right, you're always going to do the same thing. You're always going to limit yourself. So if you just allow yourself to fuck it up. So when I'm down, that's the biggest thing for me, is just, okay, what can I fuck up? Right? What can I put on this canvas then? And I mean, I've created some atrocities. They're bad. I like, but I've also created something that I've looked at and went, oh, that's really bad. And somebody else has looked at and went, wow, that's amazing. And it didn't end up on the burn pile because it meant something to somebody else. But just allowing myself that, I think that's the biggest thing for emotions. But I paint better from a place of joy. You know, I feel it's more freeing.
I actually do like your process a lot, actually. I think it's added that one thing that needs to be added for when, like, let's say you go to like therapy or someone, and the therapist is like, okay, close your eyes, think of all your emotions and put it all in this imaginary basket. Okay, now throw it away. That happened to my buddy, and he said he did that, and he said he felt so ridiculous because he's like, it's not working. I think you added that physical aspect, that it's like, no, it's like when it's like you said, when you can't properly explain something. So it's like when you say, oh, I can't really think of this. So you go and write in a journal. You get all your thoughts down on a piece of paper. You're manifesting, you're putting your words to life. You're making them real. And I think that's what you're actually doing. You're getting all your emotions, you're making them real, you're putting them on something, and then you're physically burning it. Unless someone's like, whoa, wait, I'll take it from you. Here's $20. Like, you know. But no, I actually like that process a lot. That was awesome.
Yes, and like I love the concept of burning it. It reminds me of those break rooms. You know, when you go and you just purposely like use a bat or something and you break glass. I've never done it yet, but I want to do it. But that's what it reminds me of. Having that, like Quayus was saying as well, having that physical representation of your emotions can help you process it a lot more. And that's something that really resonated with me as well, because I still have a little bit of that perfectionism stuck in my head when it comes to art. I'm like, oh, this doesn't really look as good as this other person who's been drawing every day for like 30 years. Oh my gosh. And it's trying not to compare yourself to other people's journeys and learning how to just compare yourself to yourself, of how much you've grown, how much you've changed over the years. And I'm curious to know if you ever felt fear when it came to producing your work, and how did you get yourself through that and process through that fear of like, I want to paint, I want to express myself, but the emotions are just so strong. How do I allow them out, go through my hands and get onto this canvas without running away? Like, have you ever experienced that?
Now hold that thought. We will be right back after these messages.
Oh yeah. Fear is huge. Fear holds us back so much. And I don't know that I have a miraculous way, except music. Music for me is the thing. I actually have a playlist, and I recommend everybody does this. If you have songs that move you to creativity, make a playlist so that when you play that playlist, it snaps your creativity on. There are certain when I hear that first song that's on my playlist, I am immediately inclined to create, because it's like Pavlov's dog. I've trained myself to do that. And I have a very weird playlist. I'll just put it that way. But it makes me feel powerful, and it gets me out of the emotions that I can't feel like I paint through, or I can't paint through easily. There are emotions that feel like they get stopped up in your body, which I love that you said, Quay, about that, because to me that is a huge part of therapy and mindset work and meditation. I'm not the person that just can sit and say om and not, and I have to move. So my meditations involve movement, and you might notice I talk with my hands, because I can't stop. So it has to involve the body. So this is why it works so well for me. And I think adding that musical element to it is the key when I'm stuck, when it just whatever. And I'm going to show you. Let's see if you can see. So this painting behind me of this gorgeous goddess that's at the top there with the silver. So this one, that it's hard to explain how I paint sometimes. The silver part, that actually was intentional. That was from a recurring dream I had when I was a child, a recurring nightmare, actually. And it came up in a meditation, in a movement meditation, and it popped back into my head, and I had to paint it. I mean, I felt compelled. I had to paint it. But then once I put it on the canvas on this black background, it really just, I didn't know where to go with it, which is what happens a lot of times in art. I get stuck. And what do you do when you intend to paint something and it's not quite working the way you want, or you don't know where to go with it? So I did what I always do. I turned on some music. I actually flattened this out, and I used my paintbrush as a drumstick, kind of. It was very, just all these weird squiggles. That's all I did, was orange squiggles, which had no relation or correlation to this silver. I mean, literally had none. And when I looked at it, I saw this beautiful profile just pop out. And I took out everything that wasn't that profile, and this beautiful goddess just showed up. And so the painting became something else. And the fear of this, the way this came in is, I love this. I love this painting. I sit and I stare at it at night. It's why it's still on my easel, is because I love it. But when I got to the point of not knowing how to finish it, literally like finish it with the varnish, I froze. I didn't know how to go forward. And then I finally took steps to go forward, and I did what I feared, and I fucked it up. Like, there's part of this painting that I don't know if you can see, but this painting is very cloudy because my varnish is messed up. And I tried to take part of the varnish off, and I took part of the paint off. And so I have a real fear of finishing this painting because I don't really know where to go with it. And I know that I will get there. So I don't fear that I won't ever get there, but it's hard to take those steps because you don't want to mess it up. So even though I have this process of this is how I paint so I don't feel those things, I still end up feeling those things at some point. So it's natural.
Can I tell you what my first interpretations were when I looked at it when we started
Yes.
this interview?
Yes.
So, and it actually made sense the more you were when you started to actually explain how you actually started painting it. I was thinking that the background, the black, the silver, the gray, the dots, that was making me think of space. That was making me think of different dimensions, especially with the silver line that's cutting right through. And her eyes being closed, I think that was making me think of her closing herself off to the universe and being trapped within your own mind. And that itself is a nightmare. And when you said nightmare, I was like, ha ha, all right. And all she needs to do is just open her eyes, and then the possibilities are endless. You can see anywhere, you can see everything, you can go anywhere you want. And that's where I'm like, when you say that you don't know how to finish it, I think that's the whole point of that. It doesn't need to be finished. That's the whole point of the background. It's a universe. There's no end to space. There's no end to the void. You have to keep going. That's your journey. The journey is always going to keep going. Like when you die, now it's your spirit. Now your spirit got to figure out what the heck it's going to do. It's going to start its journey. And yeah, that's what I was getting from it. I like that one a lot. It was really cool.
Yo, Quay, that was deep. That was amazing. That was a very amazing interpretation. And
we get deep here on the Melanin Muses podcast.
Don't make that sound so dirty.
Oh, is that it? Whoops. Sorry.
It's not that type of podcast, Quay.
Sorry. I didn't think. Sorry. We are not an ASMR podcast. I'm sorry.
I'm loving it. I love every bit of it.
Oh my gosh. So on a more child-friendly note, for those of you who are listening via like anywhere where you're actually just listening to the audio of this podcast, please just please take a moment, check out the YouTube channel, Melanin Muses podcast on YouTube, see this episode on screen so you can check out this woman's absolutely gorgeous paintings. Like I can't help but just staring at them through this entire interview. So if you see me like kind of looking off to the side, I'm actually looking at the computer and staring at her paintings this entire time. So please go on and check out these paintings because they're gorgeous. And just trying to describe them like audibly is just not enough. And I got to say, I'm really taken on that note. I'm really taken by not only that top painting. Quay explained enough of that because his he was so accurate with that. I love that. The bottom to my right, the one with like the pink, kind of like a pink galaxy to me. I find that to be so astounding. Like, please, if you can, tell us a little bit more about that, like the colors in that, the cool colors. For those of you who don't know about cool colors, like the purples, the pinks, the reds. So please tell us more about that.
You're talking about this one right here, correct? Yeah. Well, you wanted to be family friendly. That's probably not the painting we want to talk about.
I knew that.
I knew it.
Felt it. I was trying to be PG. That's why I said life. And gosh.
Yes.
Sorry.
Well, you know, there. Yes. Wait,
okay. Well. I thought so. I was like, oh, it's either one or two things. It's either like it reminds me of like a dragon's eye and a whole bunch of other fantasy stuff. And I was like, or it could be the very sacred place that you and I have. And Quay, you are missing, so sucks for you.
Yes. My dog. Apologies. He's whiny. He wants out. But yes, you well, I was gonna say nailed it, but well, I'll say it anyway. There we go. We'll just go on with that same theme. So yes, you nailed it. That is definitely what that was.
We get art. We get art, guys.
Yeah, see, that's it.
We have a connection.
Mm-hmm. I have to say, and this is not too, I don't want to take this in this direction. This was actually, I created this this summer after a landmark SCOTUS decision. So it was really speaking to me. And actually I will mention that the idea of this, I don't know if you could see it, but there's sort of like people that kind of like they're sort of figures down at the bottom. Yeah. And for those of you just listening, it's a very large depiction of a yoni. It has some gold leafing. It's very beautiful to me. It's I think it's beautiful, but it's sort of like up in the air, and all of these people are sort of milling around, and they're really not paying much attention to it. But the fact that it is, to me, it's sort of like up on a pedestal and being ignored, and it had sort of a social feel. So this is one of those times that I will share with you what I see. So, and that's kind of how it interpreted in my mind. Yeah, I did have that thought that I just felt like painting the feminine energy, and so that's how it kind of came out, and then the rest sort of happened.
What you said about SCOTUS is wow. Yeah, that's on the head, and that makes the bottom part of that painting even more terrifying. Especially when you said the pedestal part. and Kendrick Lamar's lyric came up, and I'm like, tee. But yeah, I
What
would
lyric
say,
is that?
put that redacted on a pedestal.
Oh, okay. Oh, gotcha. Yes. Yes. See? Yeah. So once in a while, these two paintings are actually a little less of what I normally do. It's kind of funny. I mean, they're slightly a combination of the two. And then I did have something in mind when I started. Let's see if I can fall over trying to scoot to the side. So that one there is actually, there we go. Okay. Is just an interpretive painting. That was just, and it's got a lot of gold in it. It's got a lot of texture. And I thought it was it's just fun. I don't really know
Really,
that, to me it has a lot of meaning. It's just, I just love the
I
colors and the
really,
movement.
I really like this one. For some
Thank
reason, I saw an armored anteater, and
you.
then I saw a wave. But then I feel like I'm looking into, like, when like you go deep sea diving and you can grab like coral. I feel like I'm looking into like the insides of like a coral reef and stuff. Yeah. Wow, look at that. These are great. Guys, again, to see these paintings, please check out our YouTube channel, because Tanya is one hell of an artist, and literally any of these can be up for interpretation. And those are just mine. So please don't go off mine. Please have your own opinions on this.
Tanya, oh my God. This has been so much fun. And I really appreciate you taking the time to come share your energy, to share your experiences with our audience, especially to the fellow creatives, because all of us are creatives, and it really meant a lot. So thank you so much for coming. And is there any last tips or advice that you would like to share with our audience? And also, where can they find you? Because I'm sure people are going to want to stalk you after this, and any promotional stuff.
Well, thank you. And it's been amazing. Thank you so much for having me. You guys are awesome. I love talking to fellow creatives who get it. Not that everybody can't or doesn't, but it's just, I think we have a special language. So this has been awesome. Thank you. And as far as finding me, you can find me at TanyaDaileyArt.com. It's very simple, just my name. My company name is Misfit Art, just for fun, but you probably won't find anything that way. And you can find me on Instagram and Facebook at Tanya Dailey Art also. And best thing I can recommend to everyone, and I think I've said this probably a dozen times already, but just have fun. Let go of the expectations of creating something, and just have fun with it, because that's where the freedom comes in. That's where you push those boundaries and where the magic happens. That's the biggest piece of advice I can give anybody.
I love that so much.
That's
and
well
Quay,
said. Yeah.
Anything you want to say, Quay?
I like to say to everyone that, remember, you can manifest anything you want to. Literally, the world is in the palm of your hand. As cheesy as that is, we truly have more power than you realize. Also, Tanya, if you don't know this artist already, this musician, her name is Orion's Sun. Have you heard of her?
No, I have not.
She has a beautiful voice, and I listen to her in my Silk playlist. Silk, because like it's soft and it's chill, so it allows you for interpretations. My song that I actually love of hers is actually very short. It's called Mirage, and it's actually, every time it comes on in my car, I like zone out, and I always think of like a very abstract background of like an environment. It's very nice. So yes, I hope that you give her a listen, because her other songs are also fantastic. But I love it because she has a very chill and relaxing sound. So yeah, when you were talking about music, that's what made me think of that. But also, our listeners, please check out Orion's Sun. She has a beautiful voice. She is a beautiful muse. But yes, manifest what you want, y'all. You can do it. Any remarks, Nikki?
Well, number one, again, thank you for coming. Thank you for your feedback way on everything that we've heard and learned here so far. As for my advice to those listening, and as someone who's still going through their artistic journey, remember, nothing's perfect. Art is subjective. Allow yourself to feel and explore and just let go. Because once you step into that fear, once you learn to embrace it and understand that you don't have to be perfect in everything, you just have to put your heart into it, then it'll be a lot easier. And art can really be healing. So if you are struggling with finding something that's meaningful to you, go to the dollar store. Cheap brushes, cheap paint, doesn't have to be super expensive. Just let it go. Draw some lines on it, hang it up, or burn it, as Tanya was talking about earlier, and just try to get your emotions out on the page. And trust me, it's going to open up a world of difference for you. So give it a shot. And on that note, guys, we have had such a lovely episode this week. So thank you so much for joining us for today's episode of the Melanin Muses podcast.
I was muted, my bad. To hear more, please subscribe and follow our podcast wherever you listen to our podcast.
And be sure to check us out on our Instagram as well for updates, fun photos and videos, like snippets of our podcast as well. So give us a like, give us a follow, and we shall see you next week. This is Nikki B signing off.
This is Chakwe signing off.
Tanya!
Thank you so much. I'm sorry, I was trying to unmute too. It's just a thing, I guess. So thank you so much for having me. This is Tanya signing off also.
Bye!
Peace.
Bye.